So Fred, we're here at Penn State University and the Penn Stater, as they call it. And I was talking with Jason, our videographer, around how back in the day I invited you to Metropolitan State University. You know, I was a department chair, associate professor, and little did I know at that moment that I was, you know, an endowed chair in the making, just like you. But I wanted to create a video that really documented and captured something. I got something I want to show you, and you might laugh, but you see this puppy? I want to open this thing. This is the very camera that we used. I remember it like it was yesterday at Metro State in St. Paul. We had the campus. We had the lovely science building. You came, gave a talk. The dean's, it was an inaugural. Had a tripod, set it here, just faced it this way. You were up in the front. We presented you with an award. Dean Renee Antrop Gonzalez at the time, you know, did some opening remarks. I made some opening remarks, and you shared some work. Now, I don't know technically how many years ago that was, but you know, let's say it was 10 years ago. You were 10 years younger, I was 10 years younger, but you were still doing the work. Now, I look at that video, and that was like the one step in this million-mile march towards, you know, this journey. Now we have Alt Air Media, who is an equity-minded, Black-owned media production team, helping share these digital stories. So I wanted to talk to you about this metaphor of journey. Do you have any similar stories of like back in the day, assistant professor grinding, doing work maybe in a tiny cubicle office, and now look at you, Regents Professor, Endowed Chair, just like changing the field, right? This seismic impact. So my question is, do you have any stories? Because I always love interviewing you and talking with you because I learned so much. But can you share any stories that anything comes to mind?
So I would say this whole process to me has been like building blocks.
Okay.
And you can't get to your next level. I mean, you can't take out a set of blocks because the foundation falls. So actually each step, as you think about building blocks, each block is a foundation. And it's a foundation on the top of a foundation on the top of a foundation. So I think every one of the steps for me has been foundational. So starting off, finishing my doctoral degree from the University of Arkansas and going into my very first position, which actually was a visiting position. It was a visiting assistant professor position at a small liberal arts college in Shreveport, Louisiana, Centenary College. But in that position, I actually got an opportunity to teach some undergraduate courses, and I taught some graduate level courses. And actually I was not teaching based on my doctoral training, I was teaching based on my master's level training, curriculum and instruction. But that was such a building block because it gave me like a foundation to truly understand K-12 education. So although my doctorate was in higher ed administration, I shifted back to my master's training to teach courses in philosophy of education. I taught math and science methods to undergraduate student teachers. So all of those things served, little did I know, as building blocks. So that's at the beginning of my career. But look here, not the end of my career, in my season area of my career, I am, the major grant that I have right now is titled BMST, that stands for Black Male STEM Teach. This grant is getting more black men teaching science at the middle school level. How does a higher ed person who has a degree in higher ed administration understand what it means to teach math and science at the elementary and middle school level? Well, I do because my first position was also very, very K-12. So that building block at the beginning of my career has led to a building block at the season area of my career. So I would say each one of those pieces in this building block journey has led to my overall, I would say, success. So, and I don't discount any of it.
Well, I was reflecting too of growth, just growing, and I'm thinking like a parallel would be if Nicholas looked at writing, he did as a doc student, and if Nicholas looked at writing, he's done now where I'm at. Hopefully, I see an improvement, evolution, change, growth. So, at the press, we were talking with some of the art designers, and we asked, like, what's your favorite book cover you design? And and it just made me think that this is a journey. It's not a destination. And I've been so blessed to have you as a mentor, to be invited along on this journey. We're making this long journey together, and I have this was one of the earlier printed issues of the journal, and here your previous center, and now you've had to evolve with the political times. You evolve, we all evolve, and could you tell me, where do you get your inspiration? Because I get inspired by you, seeing you move through the world, being kind of coached from the side, guide on the side. But what inspires you? Do you have similar relationships with elders, like academics? Yeah, how does that work?
I would say, for me, my inspiration comes from multiple areas and perspectives. So some of my inspiration comes from the fact that I had such good teachers and such good role models, starting with my parents, who were both HBCU graduates. They both graduated from Prairie View A&M University. My father also graduated from Quinn College. So I have a grandmother that graduated from an HBCU, Bishop College. So having all these role models and mentors who also were very, very creative. These folks, particularly these African American folks who were able to come through and persevere during challenging times, but not only to persevere, but to get their education and to thrive. So just seeing them, that has always been an inspiration for me, an inspiration for my creativity. Beyond that, also getting into this discipline, getting into higher ed administration, getting into education, and getting into a field and getting into areas where I've always had a voice, but to get into these places and spaces where some people didn't have a voice. So I became very, very invested in being able to not only have a voice, but to help others find and share their voices. And I truly believe this journal really came from, there's a place in me that has always believed that he or she who can harness the narrative has the power.
Okay.
I never want someone to speak for me. I can speak for myself. And if I can do that, then my people need to be able to speak for themselves. My people meaning African American, my people meaning Latinx, my people meaning Asian, my people meaning women, my people meaning whatever population, minoritized or even majority population. This doesn't mean that white people shouldn't have a voice too. We all should be able to.
Yep.
But I want to be able to have a voice, and I think when I have a voice, my narrative needs to be a narrative that's shared by me. So too often, particularly in academia, we get caught up in the academic ease, we get caught up in the academy. And the academy has certain ways, certain people, certain traditions that say, this is the narrative and this is the template. And I wanted to transgress those templates.
That's
transgress in a way to say that I don't need you to give me parameters on what my voice is. My voice speaks for itself. I can speak for myself. So give me the latitude to go in whatever direction I want to go. So this journal, my creativity around this journal is about harnessing the narrative and being the person that has an authentic and giving others an authentic space to share their narratives.
Yeah, kind of returning to that story of leveling up, I think of Dean Antrop Gonzalez at the time at Metro State. We were Anna Peasy. I was a blossoming department chair. And we had this idea of a video, a dean's lecture series, but then also sharing it with a broader audience. And I wonder, one thing that I've learned is there's tests in the academy, there are tests, and then there's lessons learned. In school, usually you get the lessons and then the test. And so hard times, challenges, there has to be persistence, perseverance, resilience. There's going to be a lot of no's, and so it's not just the success stories, So I wonder if you have any insight to viewers of this video, junior faculty, who they might be, they've submitted a lot of work and they're getting rejects, like any wisdom or advice you give to them of like, how do you stay persistent even if a door shuts in the academy? Like, is there a framing in your mind? Is there, what gets you through? Because even at your level, there's times when doors shut and they say no or something. So anything that you could share with other people who don't have that wisdom?
Sure. I would say that it's the long game, and I've had several of my mentors that say this to me, and even one of the former past presidents at Prairie View A&M University, who also has has been a mentor, President Ruth Simmons. I remember she saying to me one time, you have to play the long game, and I think that when you think in terms of playing the long game, you make some decisions that are aligned with that long game strategy. And that long game strategy basically says that if you're going to be in it to win it for the long game, you have to know there are going to be peaks, there are going to be valleys, there's going to be a time of just homeostasis where there's really no movement. You might just feel like I've just plateaued, but that's fine. But you have to know that if it's the long game, it's going to work out in the end, because you have to expect for the times of highs and the times of lows. So I just say that, when I run across a challenge, this is a challenge in the moment. But when I look at the longevity of what I'm trying to do, it'll balance out in the end. It'll smooth out. It'll move a different direction. Someone else, something else, some other opportunity. A door that's closed here means a window is opening someplace else. So you just have to, I guess one of the best expressions is this meme that I saw that said, you just have to trust the process. And I think that, a lot of, I've seen where folks say, what would you, if you could tell your younger self something, what advice would you give? And the advice that I would give is that, trust the process and play the long game. Be okay with the fact that maybe this particular situation is not optimal. Maybe it's not the outcome that you wanted, but just know, in a day, in a week, in a year, you won't even think about it. So you just have to be willing to deal with the vicissitudes of life and just know that in the end that it's all going to work out.
I want to end with one last question, Fred. So some other mentors of mine, I get kernels from everybody. But one mentor of mine said, he is a full professor. Is you can't stop reading, you can't stop improving, you can't stop learning, right? You want to have a desire to improve and grow. So I wanted to ask you, how do you learn in this chapter, in this journey where you're at? How do you learn? How do you get your ideas? Is there a creativity juice? What's that process like for you? For me, I'm not just a multidisciplinary scholar. I'm a multidisciplinary human. And I think this multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary focus on life that I've always had, I would say that, if I don't even say it out loud, but internally, I consider myself a Renaissance man. Renaissance in the sense that I'm not a one-trick pony. I have so many interests. So, even looking at my past life and compared to my current life. So my past life, in high school, I was in music, I was in band. There was one point that I thought that I would go off to college, and I did. I minored in music, and I was a chemistry major. And there was a point where I said, I'm going to be a concert pianist.
So I'm gonna be a pianist, and I'm actually gonna do chemistry on the side. So I just always had all these different ideas. I can remember my junior year in high school, my teacher, Miss Flowers, I actually won the award for junior English. So I've always been a pretty good writer, pretty strong writer. So I love to write. I mean, I love music. I mean, I love the sciences. So, and now that I'm in the academy, you know, I love qualitative research, but my undergrad degree is in chemistry, so I was good at quantitative research. So I like to write. I want to learn about this new concept. So my head is always, I can remember when I taught the philosophy of education course, and some of the philosophers, they say, you know, as a true scholar, as a thinker, you live with Socrates, you live with Plato, you live in these worlds, and you know, this ethereal thing that some folks like, this is strange. I'm like, I kind of get it.
Yeah. Well, I hate to interrupt, but I'm hearing, this is what I think, and I don't mean to. I'm being very sincere. I think isn't that a mark of brilliance? Because in the gifted world, you know, exceptional people, I think what you're articulating is just a high level of intellectual, the IQ, the intellectual quotient, but also, you know, that EQ. You know, as I've gotten to know you, you're one of the most humble persons that I know, kindest, gentle giant. And there's a lot of people that have that small IQ, no EQ, vicious, you know, and their vibrations and energies aren't one that I'd want to share space with. But so last thing, Fred, I think it's so fun, this journey. I think that in some ways, you know, our paths are intersecting. I'm learning a lot from you. This Penn State trip was great. We got behind the scenes. I heard you say something that resonated well when we were in the back in the warehouse. It was cool. I agree. It was amazing, like seeing all the books on the shelf and seeing the process. So it's been a great trip. It's been great that we have Jason here taking a ton of footage. Couldn't do it without our cameraman and our editor. Props to Alt Air Media. And I think we're trying to build something that no other academics or few, let's say few, are doing what we're trying to do, of using videos to give insights, intimate views, and really to help those that come after us. We're really lifting as we climb. And I just love these interviews too, selfishly, because I get to sit here, ask brilliant people questions, and learn. Like what better formula? So it's been awesome, my man. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.